Hello, Samuel here. Hello, hello, hello. So, uh, I consider myself an old school Pan Africanist, and many of the old school Pan Africanists are left wing. So, when you say I'm an old school Pan Africanist, many of the kind of traditionally a lot of Pan Africanists are and were left wing. And so, when I say I'm left of center, that politically, as far as like when I look at my own country, U.S., I'm kind of left of Sanders, left. So past Sanders, and I always get a lot of grief. I get a grief from fellow brothers and sisters who you're socialist, you're left wing, ah. You know what? What we need to do is just focus on this bag. We need to focus on this bag. Okay. You tell them, okay, we need to engage in political activity. We need to work on agendas. We need to build up the communal health of the community. Okay. The communal health of the group. And it's dismissed for this kind of let's just focus on the bag, you know, and this kind of hyper focus on capitalism. They'll tell me, oh, you left wing, but I'm a capitalist. And to me, honestly, a black person calling themselves a capitalist is like a piece of cheese calling itself a mouse. That's the best way to put it. Okay, many Pan Africans and many people, many radicals, many people who were interested in actual change in the black community, when it came to their kind of homegrown or their home focused politics, was left of center because they understood how capitalists intensifies racism. Because under capitalism, there's always a victim. There's always someone you sell to. There's the sellers. I'm being very simplistic. There's the producers, the ones who kind of that's not the right word. Let's just say sellers or owners. I'm trying to keep it simple. There's the owners, and then there's some people that we need to sell to. And so racism comes in when you just say, okay, who are we going to sell to? Who's going to be the permanent people to just consume always? Well, for at least several generations and for at least several centuries on the continent, it's been us. All right. We are produced the coffee, but they are produced Starbucks. You understand? So we're to be sold to. We're to be sold to. All right. So many of us understood how there's this kind of satanic almost connection between racism and capitalism. How capitalism's need to find a victim, and then racism's need to continue to hate blacks. Say, okay, it's the blacks. You all will never be the owners. You will always be the people we sell to and market to. You're to be marketed toward. So when a brother comes to me and says, "Oh, I'm a capitalist," which is different from saying you're an entrepreneur because I'm an entrepreneur. Sometimes you're just forced to be an entrepreneur. Okay, the economy is such where you may have to have a real job and then you may have some sort of side job, right? So we're not talking about someone saying I'm an entrepreneur. We're talking about these proud black capitalists. All right, you're cheese calling yourself a mouse, and that's what it comes down to. All right. For those who are actually real socialists, I apologize for the simple explanation. All right. But I think it's always good to point out when capitalism changes its rules. And that's my point. That's our point. When you there talking about I'm a black capitalist, I'm a black capitalist, you're going under this assumption that there's these hard and fast rules that never change. The rights of property owners. Okay, this property is my property. All right. Uh, that bank account is my bank account unless I've sold drugs or something, or I've done something illegal. Then it's not. But my property is my property, and it's completely protected. It's not like that. These so-called eternal rules of capitalism change all the time. We've already just talked about how the winners of capitalism are politically motivated or racially motivated. People in power decide who will win and who will lose. So it's always instrumental, I guess, to kind of point out when the rules just change. Look at what's happening to these oligarchs, their assets. All right. So Russian oligarchs are being sanctioned, right? No problem. But their assets, many of them were frozen hours after these sanctions were announced. Which means what? Okay, you're hearing, okay, someone's announcing sanctions against the so-called oligarchs connected to Putin, right? And then hours later, you're seeing yachts being seized. You're hearing about bank accounts being frozen. So I was told that under the rules of capitalism, there's due process before you lose your property, right? Right? And all you black capitalists believe that, all we need to do is just focus on our bags. But we're seeing people losing their bags or their bags being frozen without due process, which I thought was one of the hard and fast rules of capitalism. Hmm. But you're telling me that all we need to do, bump the bump collective activity, political activity, forget all that. We all just need to focus on our bags. And once we get our bags, we good, right? So are these oligarchs good? These Russian oligarchs, are they good? They focus on their bags, right? Are they good? Under the rules of capitalism, they were supposed to be given due process. Were they given due process? Hours after the announcements were made, their assets were seized. Now, what I'm hearing, what I'm reading, I've been reading this morning, that now governments are trying to come into create some sort of mechanism for some of the assets to be returned. So basically, what they're saying is we can seize your bag whenever we want to, and then we'll kind of figure out a way of some sort of due process protocol where you can get it back. These rules just change all the time. They change all the time. And so when you coming to me talking about you a capitalist, you a lefty and all that, you sound silly when you say, oh, we just focus on our bag, and if black folks just focus on our bags, we're gonna be good. You sound silly. Who gets the bag? Who is allowed to prosper under capitalism? Is decided. It's a decision, my guys, my gals. It's not just let's run out and get the bag. And that's dependent on the strength of your community. Your political power determines if you're allowed certain access to the so-called bag. I have these religious types. And the religious types, they're really funny. Because these religious types, there's a certain group of religious types, and their avoidance of communal activity, other than just their small religious groups, with their bullhorns on the corner, other than that, their solution is pretty much, I'm gonna get me 3 wives, and I'm gonna go out somewhere, Utah, Montana, and build my compound, and then I'm gonna be good. That's pretty much for some of these, the religious ones who want to say, okay, we're going to avoid political activity. The hell with political activity. The hell with agenda. Let me just grab me 3 wives and run out in someplace and start a compound and just farm. Okay, from personal experience, I had a farm in Cameroon. What's happening in Cameroon, my guys? Cameroon is in the middle of a civil war, which means You in a farm somewhere when a civil war or some type of hits the fan does not protect you. You're talking about someone who experienced that. Okay, you sound silly. You and what gets me with this group. Now we dealt with the kind of pro-capitalist group. This group, the religious groups who argue against any type of political activity, and their solution is polygamy and isolation somewhere in a red state. How smart is that? In every video you're talking about if stuff hit the fan. Okay, so what you're saying is you and your three wives are somewhere where those guys, just use that word, those guys have designated to be an ethno state that you're gonna be okay because you share the same conservative values. So you'll be able to, if that happens and things fall apart, you'll be able to tell your neighbors, hey, don't kill me and turn my three wives into sex slaves, uh, because we share your same conservative values. You sound silly. You sound silly. This, people talk about how the social media is good for political activity, but also social media is good for blacks who have formed these kind of trauma-based communities to kind of click up. That kind of clicked up. The kind of click up. If you don't want to do political activity, don't say I just don't want to do political activity. You're lazy or whatever. But don't hide behind capitalism, my friend. Focus on what's happening to these Russian oligarchs. Okay, focus on what happened to them and say, okay, they're changing the rules of capitalism. So just focusing on the bag is not enough. Okay, let's look at what Roman Abramovich is doing. Now he's one of the oligarchs and he's under sanction. But what is he doing to protect at least some of his assets? He offered himself as a mediator between Ukraine and Russia. And because of that, Ukraine asked the West to go easy on him. So now, how is Roman Abramovich protecting his bag? That's political activity. If you elicit the help of a government, the Ukrainian government, to help protect your assets, that's political activity. So what you're saying is and the Russians are white billionaires are engaging in political activity to increase their bag, to protect their bag, but we saying all we need to do is just focus on the bag. How stupid is that? Do I need to continue this video? No, I don't. I will talk to you later. Bye.